Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Mattel Jurassic World Hammond Collection release, and this is one that I was very intrigued by because we've got Velociraptor Blue. Now, I'm not particularly super excited to have a Velociraptor Blue. I mean, it's pretty cool to add one to the Hammond collection, but we've had so many Velociraptor Blues from Mattel previously that it's not one that I'm particularly excited about, but I'm very intrigued to check this figure out because there have been some updates to this compared to the older Raptors from Mattel. So, like a longer tail, more proportionate feet, and it also features glass eyes. So, definitely excited to get a look at this, even if, again, we've had so many Velociraptor Blues in the past, it's a little hard to get excited about a new one. I am actually still excited because of the fact that there's just so much different on this one compared to the previous releases. You can see the box art looks pretty nice. We've got a shot of the figure right there. Over here on the side, the Hammond collection. On the other side, again, another shot of Velociraptor Blue, and then here on the back, you've got some more images of Blue and everything, as well as, of course, the Jurassic World logo up there, which is where you would find Velociraptor Blue in the franchise, and, of course, Camp Cretaceous. So let's go ahead, pop this box open, and check out our new version of the Velociraptor. So here is our new and improved Velociraptor, looking pretty cool. Let me readjust the camera. I didn't realize how much higher it was, but you can immediately notice the increase in tail length on the figure, and it definitely looks a lot nicer with the longer tail, if I could position it correctly at least. Definitely looks a lot nicer. The feet being much more proportionate, again, look great. I really love that. I think the only thing at this point that Mattel really needs to work on would be their head sculpts, because the head sculpts always just look a little off to me. It's not that this one's terrible. It just... it just looks like one of the regular action figures, like one of the regular toys. It doesn't look like a higher-end collectible version. It just is, again, definitely more toy-like than collectible-like, if that makes any sense. Because, I get it, toys are collectibles, but I'm talking like, this was supposed to be an adult collector's line, as far as I'm aware, so you would think you'd see at least a little increase in quality in the head sculpts, but it doesn't look bad. It really doesn't. It just, I feel like it could look better. But obviously the balance is really nice, and considering the fact that we have much more proportionate feet on this compared to the older releases, and I really didn't have to do anything when it comes to positioning those feet to get it to stand, that's really nice to see. And also, that tells you, Mattel, that you didn't need to be giving them the large feet from the start, because clearly the more proportionate feet work just fine. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look, and we'll check this out from there. So, starting up here at the head sculpt of our Velociraptor Blue, it almost looks creepy, because at this point, with this angle, it looks like it doesn't have eyes at all, which is honestly terrifying. It does have the glass eyes, though, again, I feel like they definitely need to work on those glass eyes. They're not working out as nicely as I had hoped. I don't know what it is about them, but it's just, the eyes look awkward and strange. It's hard to really see the detail in the eye of the figure on these, and I don't understand why that is. Like, it has a super dark eye, even like it's probably looking a little more rough here through the camera just because of the light and everything glaring off of it. You could see it a little better, I think, in person, but the eye, even still in person, is just very dark, and I honestly, at this point, I was pretty hyped for the glass eyes, but I think at this point I'd prefer just going back to the regular eye paint if they can't figure these eyes out, because it's kind of making the figures look a little bit strange, and in this case, maybe even a little possessed. But as far as the sculpt goes, the skin texture looks pretty good on this one. You can see some very nice, very vibrant detail you often find when it comes to a Mattel release. The nostrils are sculpted actually really nicely. You can see that they look very realistic, if you ask me. They genuinely look like they, extend into the snout of the dinosaur rather than just looking like something that's been sculpted out right there. It looks like the actual real nostrils. You can see that we do have the grayish tone for the upper part of the head and a lighter tone here for the lower side of the, like the lower jaw and the lower part of the throat and everything of the raptor. We have the blue stripe that leads up and over the eye and sort of under the eye, pretty much what it looks like. Not perfect, but pretty close. We, of course, do do have an articulated jaw for our Velociraptor Blue. You can see the teeth on the inside of the mouth are sculpted, and they're all sculpted together. That's another thing. I would really love to see Mattel start kind of sculpting the teeth out individually. I mean, we may see that because lately they've been improving the teeth of their figures, so it's something we could see at some point soon. But like when you look up there at the teeth, they just kind of appear all jumbled together, and in some instances they're almost actually hard to make out, the different teeth. But it could be worse, I guess. They definitely look better on the lower jaw. They actually look a lot better on the lower jaw. But still, I would really prefer to see them sculpted individually. You can also see the inside of the mouth sports a nice pinkish tone on both the upper side and the lower side of the inside of the mouth. And again, the skin here along the side of the mouth also sports that nice pinkish tone. The jaw doesn't close perfectly. You can kind of see it pops back open, but it's not too bad. As you move back here into the neck, one thing that I find interesting on this figure is so many Mattel Raptors in the past have had those trademark osteoderms that you see in the neck of Velociraptor Blue, but I'm not really picking up on them on this one. They're just not, if they are there, they're a little muted and I can't see them that well, because you usually have a few osteoderms as you lead back into the neck. Kind of looks like maybe I see them, but they're not super obvious like they most often are. But as you lead back, you can kind of see some creasing and stuff in the neck, and of course the blue stripe running down on this side as well kind of stops. It's supposed to stop before it reaches the eye. Here it kind of runs under the eye. So again, a little bit of sloppiness, I would say, as far as the paintwork. It's not perfect, but it's okay for what it is. We do have some very nice articulation. You've got a spot here and a spot here to articulate the neck. You can see right now we're primarily just operating the lower part of the neck, which can go down and can go up pretty nice. And you also have an articulated joint up here, which you can see right there, which allows the neck to move forward and up very nicely, which can give you some very cool poses with this raptor. It's hard to recall, but I don't know that we had that articulation on the previous raptors. Maybe we did, and I just don't remember, but I actually really quite like the addition of that, so definitely a very nice improvement as far as that goes. And you can see you can now get that head looking straight up, so the articulation is pretty darn nice in the neck of this one. You can get a nice turn in the head and everything. It doesn't turn like perfect. Kind of, you can get a nice turn to the left and stuff. It's just like it has to look up to do it for some reason. We also have articulation that can go down really far. Now that is super impressive when it comes to the articulated aspect of this figure. So Mattel definitely making some very nice improvements on this raptor, but still a few areas that are a little bit lacking. As we move down though into the body, you can see the blue stripe continues to follow along. It kind of like goes severely off course though for some reason. You can see if we position it, you can kind of get that stripe back into being kind of following along the way it should, but like it doesn't go down here. It should have followed along right here. I don't understand how Mattel could release so many Velociraptor Blues over the years and then still find a way to make the blue stripe look a little awkward on this one. It's just very, very strange. But again, it's definitely not perfect. It's not perfectly placed, and it is a bit off. So once you move the leg, the blue stripe is completely broken up now and looks very goofy. If you move down through the course of the arm, though, you can see some decent muscle definition. Of course, we also have articulation forward and back in the arm and out away from the body, something that we often have from Mattel. And then you have articulation in the elbow, which goes forward and back and can also swivel, so you can correct the wrists and everything like that. You move down into the hand sculpt, you can see some nice scoots running down the course of the fingers. You've also got some very nicely painted nails with a nice glossy dark gray, which looks really good. Definitely a fan of that. As we move into the stomach region, you can see the skin texture and scale detail looks awesome on this. Once you move into the stomach, like it's extremely crisp. Definitely, again, showing how Mattel not only improves on certain aspects like articulation and more proportionate sized body parts, but also just generally always improving on the quality of their figures. I feel like they are consistently more and more impressive when it comes to how good the detail on the figures looks. You can see the spinal column here moving along the back of the raptor. Moving down into the legs, you can see some muscle definition. You can also see some alternate coloration. There's like a lighter tone that you see actually in the stomach, just like randomly just splotched all over there, and then leading down through the course of the thigh, kind of replicating the appearance of Velociraptor Blue in toy fashion, I think as good as they're going to get. But again, the muscle definition, the skin texture, everything looks quite nice moving down the thigh. You've got the knee right there as well as the calf muscle. And I think the legs look so much better in general now because of the fact that they look like disturbingly thin and kind of starved and everything before, mostly because the feet were so huge. It just made like the calf and everything so off-putting. But now that the feet are more proportionate, the legs as a whole I think look a lot better. They don't look so awkward or strange. So definitely a big improvement as far as that goes. As you move down into the foot, you can see some scoots running down the front of the foot down into the toes. Again, we've got the nails painted with that nice glossy black. We do have dew claws, but no paintwork for them. Go figure. I don't know why Mattel really hates the dew claw. But of course, you do have articulation in the legs and the hip region. You can see forward and back, and it can definitely go pretty far as per usual. It can also move out away from the body a little bit. Then you've got the knee right there, forward and back, and also swivel. And then you've got another spot down here in the foot, which actually can articulate really nicely. Again, you can go forward. You can also come up pretty high and then swivel that. Let's hold that for a second. There you go. Swivel that area as well. So definitely really, really nice, very smooth articulation in the legs of Velociraptor Blue. As we move back up here, you can see some skin wrinkling and creasing. You can also see another spot here of articulation for the tail. You know, pretty much your standard. If you have one Mattel Hammond collection figure, you'll definitely know what this articulation is like. And actually, if you have any Mattel figures pretty much at all, you should have an idea of how the articulation in the tail works. But as you do move out, you do again have that wire tail for the rest of the tail, so you can continue to articulate it. And you can also see again the blue stripe as we lead out. Not so much of a stripe, but kind of like the blue squiggles as we move out here through the course of the tail. The skin texture also looks pretty nice leading out the rest of the way. You can see that the underside of the tail doesn't have any of that lighter tone. It kind of breaks off here in the groin and disappears. And as you lead back from the tail into the groin, you can see it actually picks back up, I guess you could say, and then it runs along the underside of Velociraptor Blue. You're not going to see much of anything different over here on the opposing side, though, because, of course, the figure is in a totally neutral position, considering it is a fully articulated figure. You know, that is up to you to then reposition the figure the way you want. But again, it's a mixed bag. There are definitely some things that are a little iffy about the figure, like the eyes still aren't working perfect. I think they actually look, from certain angles, they look pretty nice, but they just need to find a way to improve the way the detail in the eyes looks. And again, the head sculpts just need to be improved a little bit when it comes to, especially like the lower jaw just seems really thick. I think that's one of the biggest things that is off-putting about the head right now. But and of course the blue stripe is definitely a little bit wonky. But overall, again, the improvements on this are very impressive and definitely a very big step in the right direction. As far as the size goes for Velociraptor Blue, we should have a bit of a larger size now compared to the older Raptors with the increased tail length, about 8 1/4 inches or 21 centimeters. And then for a height, you are looking at, well, just under 4 inches or 10 centimeters at this point. But again, when it comes to a figure like this, you could pose it down lower, you could pose it up higher. That's really your call. So the height is dependent on the way you pose your raptor. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Hammond Collection Velociraptor Blue. And you can see the raptor does have a pretty nice size to it. But if you are familiar with the Hammond Collection figures already, you should already have a pretty good idea of the size of this raptor, because I couldn't see this one differing too much from the older raptors. But what I definitely want to do is bring in one of the older Hammond Collection raptors to compare with this newer version. So there is the comparison that I think we really needed. If you look at this comparison, you can just see such a major improvement on the part of Mattel compared to their older versions of the raptors. And you can see again that the feet being more proportionate looks amazing compared to the older ones. And in this instance, you can really see how the calf and everything looks pretty much the same on the older one compared to the newer one, but it's the feet that made the calf and the lower part of the leg look so awkward because the feet were gigantic. Talk about clown shoes on that raptor compared to the new one. The new one is like light years better than the older one. You can also see the tail length is definitely obvious here, obviously a lot better on the newer Raptor, and certain areas of the Raptor in general, like actually I would say the entire Raptor has been completely resculpted. You can see a very big difference in the body, you can see a difference in the leg, even the height of the thigh like looks significantly better on the newer Velociraptor Blue. The only thing that looks kind of similar would be the head sculpt, but the head sculpt is definitely different. It looks sort of similar because it follows the same style, but definitely different from the older one. So as a whole, I would say everything on this new Velociraptor Blue has been updated, but you can also see that size-wise, you know, outside of the new things like the longer tail and stuff and the feet, the size is still the same. So I don't feel like we really need any more comparisons past this point because we've had so many Hammond Collection Raptors already, but I definitely wanted to do this comparison to show the differences. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Hammond Collection Velociraptor Blue is a major upgrade when it comes to not just the Velociraptors in the Hammond Collection, but the Hammond Collection as a whole. And, you know, it just has me so much more excited for the other figures to come out for the Hammond Collection, because like at first we were so hyped, and then when you finally see the Raptor, it's like, oh man, it's a bit of an ugly figure, you know, you just don't have that great of a looking sculpt. I mean, the sculpt looked okay, but like the larger feet, the short tail, everything about that just really put the Raptors and stuff off for me, and I was very underwhelmed with the majority of the Raptor releases from Mattel for the Hammond Collection, and I really shouldn't have felt that way. I felt like this was going to be a brand new breath of fresh air in the Mattel line, and to then be let down by the ugly appearance of the Raptors was definitely a bummer. And now, with these newer Raptors, man, they look so much better. Makes me kind of wish they could go back and re-release the older ones looking more like the newer ones. The biggest thing I think Mattel really needs to work on when it comes to their Raptors, though, is the difference in head sculpts. You know, not every Raptor looks the same, and they did improve it when it comes to like the JP3 Raptors. They went a different route and sculpted the heads out better, and I feel like Velociraptor Blue here does look pretty decent, but when it comes to the older Jurassic Park Raptor, and if they ever make a Lost World Raptor, again, they really need to improve the head sculpts on those guys, I think. The new Velociraptor Blue definitely has way better looking detail than we had seen on the older ones. It's much more crisp, and the entire body as a whole just looks so much better than the older ones did. The proportions, of course, are probably the biggest improvement, but when you actually get close and you look at the fine detail as well, again, it all looks way better on this one than it did on the older ones. On top of that, again, the articulation has been improved for this Raptor, and that as well is a massive plus. Like, at least in the neck region, the articulation works a lot nicer and is a lot smoother than we had seen on the older one. The glass eye still isn't really working that great for this one either. It definitely needs some help, but I feel like there is some hope there. Like, there's definitely some promise, and they could do a great job with those. They just need to figure them out. There's just something a little off about those glass eyes. The paint is definitely a little sloppy on this one as far as the placement. Like, I hate the fact that the blue stripe runs straight through the thigh where it really shouldn't be hitting, and just is like a jumbled mess, I would say, as far as that goes. It just needed to be placed a little bit higher up. And the blue up in the face, you know, is a little bit off, but it's just very minor critiques as far as that goes. But as a whole, I really feel like this figure is, again, a gigantic improvement from Mattel, and definitely their best Velociraptor yet. So if you are interested in picking one up for yourself, you can go ahead and pre-order one. If the pre-order link is still available on Target, they are also available to pre-order on Entertainment Earth, and hopefully will be showing up in Target at some point very soon. So make sure you do all that, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.